men are seen in utilitarian terms. We have the same rules set up for men that they've always lived by, that you need to protect and provide at any cost. But we've changed everything where it concerns women, and they are living by an entirely different set of rules.
Why are there so many women today who say they don't need a man?
Because men act like women half of the time these days.
Men are supposed to be like the protectors and like the providers. So, and if men are now looking at us being like, oh, you can protect and provide for yourself, then I'm like, why do I need you here?
Does the fact that women no longer need men mean that the main reason women were with men was because they had to be?
No, I think that we all want a human connection. It's just if you're not able to offer enough for us or give 50-50, and most men are emotionally unavailable now, so we don't want it.
Men believe in 50-50 now, and they don't believe in providing as much as they used to, or it's not the same as back in the day. It's completely different from like the 1950s and the early, those kind of times. But now it's just like men earn just as much as money as women, and women earn just as much as men. And so at this point, we can all provide equally.
Wouldn't that prove that men were often seen as a utility to be used?
Yeah.
So aren't men better off without women if that's the main reason women would want to be with men?
But that's the problem. Women say they're better off. Men never say that.
Men have run out of reasons to try, because for the bulk of a man in any stage of his life, he's always had to try to impress the woman or try to keep her attention. But when that doesn't work anymore, he'd rather be alone or be with his boys or do something that's going to better him.
If women no longer need men, why do they still seek men who have more resources, now even more than they ever did before?
Because their wants and needs have escalated, not just because of the economy, but just because of social media. You have all these people all these celebrities that you see, drive supercars and fly on private jets and go on trips every week. But realistically, they're not, and most of it is made up.
Should a man be expected to love a woman for who she is?
Yes.
If a woman only loves a man for what he provides?
I mean, essentially men only love women for what they provide, their bodies, and being able to, care for them. So, I mean, wouldn't you say it's a double standard?
They're giving a lot of their bodies and different things to men without getting nothing but sometimes divorce in return, and then they have nothing. So a lot of women are kind of doubling down and making sure that the men have something before they give them the time.
Are women giving their bodies to men, or are they sharing their bodies with men?
You better ask these deep questions. I do still think that women, when they give their bodies up, it's still giving. It's still, a privilege. Yeah, a privilege.
Isn't sex something that's shared while money is something that's taken?
I think both things can be shared. I think both sex and money can be shared. It just depends on if you're rocking with the right person.
Why is it that in the age of independent women, a man's value is often determined by what he provides?
And why is a woman's value determined by her sex, her looks, her body, and nothing her brain, nothing intellectual, but just physical appearance?
Women want money, and I feel like women, they're trying to sell anything for money, which is right between their legs.
Women do feel we are the prize, and so at the end of the day, we do want to know what a man can provide, because we're supposed to be in our feminine. Women are not supposed to be masculine, and a lot of women are in their masculine era if they're independent, usually because they don't have somebody that allows them to drop those walls, and unfortunately nowadays that comes with what you can do.
Why is anything women don't want to do labeled masculinity?
I think that deep down, a lot of women don't want to have to work, and they want to feel like they can be provided for.
Why is that?
I think that at the end of the day, a lot of us still want to be able to be mothers or be at home with our children, and also just like gallivant and have some fun with our husbands.
To be very truthful, if I'm gonna be with somebody and it's a trash environment now, I might as well go with somebody that I'm gonna gain something with.
Why is women's empowerment all about liberation and choice, while men's empowerment is all about masculinity, duty, and sacrifice, which is actually the opposite of liberation and choice.
I don't know why it is like that. I mean, us men, we probably only thing we can offer is money. That's what it seems like to a woman, or maybe our masculinity, meaning that we have to work out. Now it's like if you're not working out, a woman is not even, if you don't have no money, you're not working out, women don't even like you no more. So it's just,
So what's the difference between masculinity and utility?
well, masculinity, I don't even think they feel like they need that, because the ugliest guy with money is getting the girl. So
Well, isn't money still a utility?
it's still a utility. They got to pay bills, and a lot of women need the bills paid.
I think it's all like primal and innate. I think for a long time men always sacrificed themselves for women, and women, they just care about their body and their views, and they're not like, they were always the gatherers, they weren't ever the hunters. So
How can what empowers one gender be the opposite of what empowers the other?
I think just because there's two different sets of chromosomes when it comes down to making people. I mean, you're talking about two completely different DNA chains and two different innate primal responses to nature and everything around them.
Why are men expected to double and triple down on their gender role when women have been liberated from theirs?
That's a good question.
It is true. I do feel like for women it's easier to have a choice now, to take on the masculine side if you want. It's celebrated and encouraged now, but also it's okay if you don't want to and you just want to embrace the traditional feminine role. I don't know.
Because men also like to take care of women, okay? So they got to act tough. Like I said, you can't cry. You got to double down, triple down on masculinity so you can... that one's a tough question, honestly. I can't get through that one.
Oh, I mean, if men aren't going to stand by and, change the world, why would nothing's, we're going to go to where we've been going the past few years. I mean, men have to, double and triple down. Otherwise, we're going to fall into sin and fall to the wayside like all these other nations that are crumbling right now.
We pay the bills, we buy the gifts, we take care of holidays, we take care of everything. And that's because we're men. And anytime that we try to voice our opinion about like, oh, we're men, we pay all the bills, we do all of this stuff, the women get mad. Like, you're supposed to do that. And it's almost twisted, because it's like, why do women feel as if it's mandatory for us to do that and they don't have to do their job, And I feel like the job for a woman is just taking care of the home, and, they could work and pay bills if they would like, but since when was it just 100% on the man?
Why was there a men's liberation movement during the 1970s? What do you think men needed to be liberated from?
The wars. I mean, we were thrusted into a bunch of wars and stuff, and we were kind of put on the back burner and thought we were only good for defending the country. We needed to, come back and be men again and take back the households.
The movement's goals were to challenge traditional male roles and gender expectations, and to free men from the constraints society placed on them. Why do we complain about how men are treated and have harder lives at the same time we're advocating for men to be in roles that oppress them?
I think that there's just a lot of soft men out there, honestly. A lot of men that were raised by single moms and they don't know what it takes to be a man.
You're the man, you got to pay the bills. You're the man, you got to do this. You got to provide, you got to be the provider. So by us having strength, we could do everything differently. Like, for instance, I moved my whole house into a new place over the weekend, and I didn't have any help. It was just me. My wife was upstairs, and that's just because I'm the man, and I feel like that was my job to do that.
Doesn't strength actually work against men?
I mean, I guess it would work against men in the fact that we have to be out on the front lines, but like that's our job, We're supposed to be protectors and protect everybody else. So it's a double-edged sword, but that comes with the responsibility.
Who hired men to do that job?
God.
What if you're not religious?
Then your biological DNA hired you to do that. I mean, if you don't want to go into religion, you can go into science.
Well, if women put a price on their sexuality, why don't men put a price on their utility?
They do. They require you to have sex with them, cook and clean. That's a price.
I mean, I think we do in a certain sense. When it comes to picking a life partner, I feel like we definitely do.
If men are obligated to protect women because they're physically stronger, why aren't women obligated to be sex slaves to men because they have more sex appeal?
I don't think that women should be obligated to be sex slaves.
So then why should men be obligated to be any kind of slaves?
I feel like if you're going to be a man, that you have an obligation to serve and protect those around you, including women. But women need to be a lot more, they need to be the soft hand that a man comes home to after a long day.
Why don't we get to tell women, well, your job is to cook, clean, and make sandwiches because you're women?
Well, I think once we tell a woman that, they're going to take it as if, like, us men, we just expect for women to have one particular job, which is be a wife at home, which is cooking, cleaning. When back in the 50s and the 60s, I feel like that's really what it was when it came to a wife, but I don't know. It's just a little bit different.
Why is it that a woman can be whatever she wants, but a man is clearly defined?
I don't know. I think it's just because we're living in a political world, unfortunately, and it's extremely sexist. So when it comes to the way that women believe and the way that us men, we believe, it's not really much that us men we can get away with, but there's a lot that women can get away with. And I think it's because they got boobs and they got an ass, and I don't think, like, us men, like, we don't have those things. Like, we you know what I mean? Like, women have stuff that people are easily attracted to, so they can get away with a lot of things. But men, we can't. We can't just take a vacation and say, I don't want to pay bills today, or I don't want to cook, I don't want to go to work today. We can't.
What's the difference between feminist women shaming men for being toxically masculine versus traditional women shaming men for not being masculine enough?
I really don't think there's, like, much of a difference in either. It sounds like both kind of have, like, maybe a little bit of, like, bigotry on both sides.
Don't women define masculinity based on what benefits them?
No, I define masculinity on, like, what I personally think, like, a man is. You're strong, like, you're a leader, you're a provider, like, that is what I see. It's not just, like, attractiveness and all of this.
Aren't those all things that benefit women?
I mean, isn't that also the same thing that benefit men?
My perfect man is a mix of masculinity and femininity, so I feel like you shouldn't shame somebody for being one or the other. There's no perfect mix.
Don't women define masculinity based on what benefits them?
Probably yes.
Why is that?
Because we're looking for certain, the problem with most women is that we're looking for certain ticks to be marked whenever we're looking at men in the beginning.
Why is that?
Well, whenever you're looking at somebody that you want to date, you're, like, subconsciously going through a list of checking things off, like, that they can provide for you. And we probably shouldn't do that, but it usually happens.
Why do women often choose to make lists of what they want in a relationship rather than what they bring to the table?
I think that you can do both, but I think that you just want to make sure that he's bringing enough for you before you get into it. And it could be because you've been with, honestly, like, a loser in the past.
Why has religion been imposed as part of the men's masculinity movement, and what is the connection?
Read the Bible and you'll see what God's plan was for man and how we should choose a partner and be as a person and raise a family.
Doesn't that give them a license to condemn masculinity if it doesn't fit their definition?
I mean, I guess it could, but there's a lot of religions that are way worse. And, you got Christianity, I think I'm a Christian, so I feel like Christianity is definitely the one true way. But there's a lot of other religions that, treat women like second-class citizens. So pick your religion like you pick what you're going to wear out that day.
If it's not right to dictate religion to people, why is it right to dictate masculinity?
It's right to dictate religion to people. That's what God wants you to do, is go out and spread his word.
So then how would you feel if people were imposing Sharia law on Christians?
I mean, I don't agree with that, but, like, they have every right to do that, just like I have every right to go out and protest my faith in the Bible. I mean, there's a little bit different between Christianity and Sharia law, but, if people want to do that, we're protected, especially in the United States, under the First Amendment, so.
For me personally, I dictate masculinity because femininity is just dictated onto me. You expect me to cook and clean. You expect me to look pretty and take care of everything at home. So why can I not expect for my man to do his man roles that he's expecting of me?
But aren't men labeled misogynists and sexist when they dictate femininity to women?
But I feel like women are seen as sexist and feminist when we do the same thing back.
If being a masculine man means accepting the burden of others, why would anyone want to be a man by that definition?
I don't know why you would want to be a man by that definition, because I don't think I don't think like taking care of a woman and providing for her would be a burden. But it's the same way with women. Like if we want to cook for our man, if we want to have their children and raise them while you go and make money and provide for us, then that's not a burden to you. It's just what you bring to the table.
Why would anyone want to be a man?
Nobody
by that
would want
definition?
to. Nobody would want to. I have 4 brothers, 4 black brothers, so I understand how that feels to be a man in today's society. It's a struggle on both ends.
So what's the difference between masculinity and utility?
There really isn't.
Why would anyone want to be a man by that definition?
I think a lot of people, some men don't. Some men don't want to be men. That's the reason why we have people that want to be women. We have, people that are gay. We have all these different type of people in this world that don't necessarily want to be a man because they probably feel as if me as a man, like I have to do so much and so this and that, and I just want to be more free. So they feel as if like the woman has the easier route, which I don't necessarily agree on that. I feel like we all do what we can, but there's some men that do get abused in that situation.
Well, why would you have to be a woman or gay? Why can't you just be a liberated, straight, heterosexual man?
I mean, that would be great, but unfortunately we live in a political world where people are so against what you believe or what you do.
I don't know if anybody wants to be a man. They even did a study. A girl tried to be a man and she wanted to commit suicide afterwards. It's not easy.
Being a man is tough. Being a man is essential. Being a man is what built the country. And honestly, if anyone's strong, you see all these guys, they go to the gym, they run every day, or they work out, or they have tough jobs, it's because they choose that. So when they've put their time and effort in it for it, they do it for a reason. And half the time, it's because they need to. The other half the time, it's because they want to.
If being masculine is a natural process, why are men often shamed to be sculpted that way?
I don't think it's a natural process. I think it's a norm that is forced on society due to rules and manifestations that have been put into place for decades, maybe even centuries. It goes down to even when boys are crying when they're young and they're yelled at for, stop crying, you're acting like a girl, or get up, dust it off, you're just a guy. It's things that's implemented. It's not something that was given to you at birth.
What's the difference between a feminist defining a real man versus the masculinity movement defining a real man? What gives either one the right to define manhood?
Neither of them have the right to define manhood because everybody is going to think about it on a different spectrum. But a feminist defining masculinity is probably going to be people that will give a woman more quote-unquote freedom, and then masculinity, people who are fighting for masculinity are going to want to be providers, want a woman who's probably more like a housewife, I feel like.
If it's not right to dictate religion to people, why is it right to dictate masculinity?
It's not. I don't think either's right to dictate, to be honest with you.
So if you're dictating masculinity through your own religious beliefs, how is that not a violation of our First Amendment rights?
It might be a violation of our First Amendment rights. Who writes your questions? That's the real question. This is great.
Why were the trad cons never an issue when it came to women's liberation, but they are when it comes to men's liberation?
Because I feel like, especially nowadays, men's liberation is a lot different than what it used to be. Now, men's liberation is, if I feel like a woman, I can be a woman, or, I feel like a cat, I can be a cat. The liberation is different. We used to fight in wars, now we're using urinals and bathrooms. So I feel like there's a lot of pushback now from trad cons than there was back in the day.
Doesn't that prove that trad cons catered to feminism and allowed it to get worse?
You're supposed to love women. I mean, you're supposed to nurture for them and care for them. So in a sense, yeah, you kind of got to go towards feminism at some points. But when it comes to, what's going on in the world today, I feel like they got it right. So.
And why are they now fighting against the men who are trying to make the conditions better?
I don't know if they're trying to make conditions better. I feel like there's a lot of people that have a really warped sense of what the world used to be and what the world needs to be. So there's always going to be a power play there, and I'm just one person, but I do what I can.
Men are socialized to put their necks on the chopping block, to expose themselves to elements, to take on dangerous jobs, to work on crab boats, to drive trucks, to do any number of really, really dangerous things in order to provide for people that they care about. We have the same rules set up for men that they've always lived by. that you need to protect and provide at any cost. It's the old standard of women and children first. It is still men carrying the lion's share. And it is still the expectation that if somebody's going to go down with the ship, it's going to be men.